Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Talking Acquisition. This is the weekly high-energy, informative, and slightly opinionated view on all things acquisition, procurement, and government contracting related. This is the place where the contracting community, the acquisition community, and our industry partners connect to talk, listen, and learn from each other. My name is William Randolph. I am your host, and I'd like to introduce my co-host, my partner, my colleague, and my dear friend, Soraya Carrera. Hello, Soraya. How you doing?
Hello, Will. How you doing? I'm doing
great. I'm doing great.
Oh,
Good to see you.
All right. Well, let's start off with our disclaimer, and then we're going to jump into our topic. So our podcast shares information and views on a variety of topics that impact the federal acquisition community. Our goal is to provide thought leadership and perspective, not to criticize, judge, or render political opinions, although we might slip on that. We provide this free service because we are former federal acquisition professionals and leaders. We believe that the creativity, innovation, and effectiveness of our community is unleashed when we share knowledge, information, and learning. We hope you enjoy our podcast, and we welcome the views and comments of our colleagues across the private and public sectors. So, Will, what would you like to discuss this week?
Well, I know you've been doing a little traveling here lately. So one of the big things, one of the big events in our community is NCMA's World Congress, Chicago,
Woo-hoo.
Illinois. I heard you were there. I had a virtual experience, but I heard you were there in person. So let's just do this. Let's just do this as a recap. How was it? Let's talk about it.
So first of all, let me tell you what it meant to me to be there in person. So for many years, I've gone to NCMA World Congress. I always participate one way or another. Either I'm there or, I'm there to host an event or be a part of the event or be on a panel. But this was the first time that I was there from the very beginning to the very end. So it's like a shock, right? That I actually stayed with the whole time. But
it's a whole thing.
It was a whole thing. I mean, they do like some cool stuff. I didn't even know. No, but it was, first of all, it was just a privilege to be there, to be surrounded by the many acquisition professionals that we know, many of which we know both in private and public sector, but to see the size of that crowd in person. I don't know what the exact numbers were, but by my calculation, easily they had like about a good 700 to 800 people, maybe. And I'm not good at estimating, so I could be like way off. It could have been 200. No, I'm kidding. I know it was and then I know that they had a huge virtual audience.
In the thousands, what I heard.
In the thousands, yes. And they typically do have a huge audience. I think probably last year, it was a smaller in-person audience only because you were coming out of COVID. But this time around, oh my God. And the people, you see people that range the entire gamut, from very junior personnel to senior executives to pillars of our community, right? The people that made this community great, that make this community great. The topics were extremely relevant. I thought it was one of the best World Congresses. I thought the plenary sessions were truly plenary. They were less contractish and more spoke to you as an individual, as a member of the community that exists. I thought the hosts did a great job. Of course, I'm a little bit biased because mine, but I thought that they did a great job. I think the world of Carla Jackson Smith, I always say her name backwards. Carla Jackson Smith, who is the senior procurement executive at NASA. I thought she did a fantastic job. Her and I go way back. She used to work, we worked together at DHS, and then she came to work for me for a short while at DHS.
Oh, nice.
And then the breakout sessions were really good. Very good topics, well focused, but not so focused that you would get bored with it, if you know what I mean. They were relevant topics, and they were good interactive sessions, allowing time for interaction. So I thought that was great. And then just the opportunity to socialize with the community, right? The evening events that they host to bring people together. I will say this, that for me, it was also somewhat emotional because I saw people that I hadn't seen in 30, 35 years.
Wow.
I actually ran into colleagues that I worked with 35 years ago. That's huge, but you know what happens when you're old.
I'm not claiming it.
40 years of federal service, you get an old girl. Everybody's working with you now. But it was just, I just thought it was just a great event. I really did.
Yeah.
There are two events that I generally always talk about, and I talk about the importance of the community participating. One, of course, is NCMA World Congress. That's the who's who of acquisition professionals. And then the other one is the Executive Leadership Conference that IAC hosts, because that's another one. That's the who's who in the
Sure.
IT profession and IT acquisitions world. Those are two events that I always say, if you're not going to go to anything else, go to those two events, because
Nice.
here you're going to see everybody that you know, people that you worked with, and you learn a lot. You really do.
Absolutely.
From industry and government combined.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had the virtual experience, not only participating virtually, but actually had a exchange session that I did on I think it was the Tuesday of the week. So it was a very well done. Even the virtual experience was extremely structured. You knew exactly where to go. The IT was working, all the stuff. It was like very, very elevated, kind of mature from a standpoint of just getting through and getting the mechanics, the logistics of it correct. You can often lose the experience in the logistics. It's like, it doesn't quite work, and the button's not quite there, and the things don't quite open up right. I thought it was just done superbly. And even in the session that I had, it was a couple of hundred people, virtually in the exchange that I had. So I was really impressed with the numbers. I heard there were like collectively, it was like in person and virtually, there were thousands of people that participated. So what was your favorite? Did you have a favorite? Was there any one thing that's like really stuck out to you?
So I don't so you know me. My favorites are always anything that has to do with mentoring and working with developing our future leaders. So I had the great opportunity on Sunday morning to participate in the Contract Management Leadership Development Program presentations. So this year, I actually sponsored a group or championed a group. I don't know what they call it, mentored group, I guess.
Sure.
I mentored a group, and they were phenomenal. And their topic was the Great Resignation, and they did just a fantastic job. But all three groups were amazing. And I got to sit through all three presentations and listen to the judges, of which one of them was my good friend Polly Hall from DHS. And it was just fantastic listening to the thought processes of these individuals and how well they present. You would have thought these folks have been doing this for years. They sound better than some of the scholars in this profession, right? So of course, that was like my favorite, and that wasn't even like an event that everybody went to. Right. It was just a small group of us. But of course, that was my favorite because it has to do with the future. But the other event that I participated in, both from a personal standpoint and also as a member of the NCMA Council on Diverse, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. Now they call it DEB, right? Dr. Sessions was her name, Dr. Sessions. She hosted an event in the morning. There was a session on DEIB. And then in the afternoon, she hosted another session. And members of the council, I'm on that council, members of the council went to the afternoon session, and we sat at individual tables working with folks that were there, going through case studies.
Oh, interesting.
Real situations, right? Where people did stupid stuff, as I call it.
Material there, huh?
Little cases, I'm like, I probably know this opponent. No, just kidding. Anyway, but I found first of all, it's a very relevant topic that we're dealing with today and across federal government, et cetera. And I don't tend to go off on these like topics, when the government gets all like riled up about these things. But what I really liked was the way the session was presented and what it really meant. That meant a lot to me as a Hispanic female who rose to the ranks of highest levels of leadership in federal government. It resonated with me because I grew up in the 80s. I came into this profession in the 80s. And if you remember the 80s, when you looked out in a conference room, it was a sea of white men. And then later on, they peppered it with a few Black men. And eventually they found themselves a few women. Okay. And eventually they found me. No, just kidding. Right? So, but I shared that, and I shared that with folks, especially the NASA Supervisory Leadership Team, because DEIB is about helping you feel accepted, helping you feel a part, seeing yourself in the organization. And I didn't see myself for many, many years. So for me, that really resonated with me, right? That those two sessions resonated with me. And I just thought that they were very well done. I just thought they were fantastic. But the reality is I was popping in and out of sessions. I don't think there was any bad sessions that I know. Maybe the panel I was on because I was there. No, just kidding. I'm joking. I had the opportunity to sit with Jennifer and Richard Hanks and Elizabeth Sullivan. Just an incredible panel. I mean, I felt like I'm like this big compared to them. These are the really smart people in the room. Just incredible. I can't think of anything that wasn't good. I didn't hear anybody say that
That's
anything
awesome.
was good, you know?
Good. Well, I am so happy that the CMLDP folks presented well because they had a coach. They had some people that coached a little bit.
Really good coaches
around the edges, So but they were a fantastic group to work with. I am so happy that what I take from that is the community is going to be fine in the future.
Oh, that's exactly it.
It's going to be just fine.
That's exactly, I think, probably why it was my favorite thing to do while I was there, because just all three groups were, well, you met the group that I coached. By the way, we had 2 award winners in that group.
Hey, all right. That's what I'm talking about.
But also, it was just their focus, their attention, and the topics that they chose. They were all workforce relevant. And it was all about developing that workforce and talking about that portability of the workforce back and forth. I just was like, I'm totally impressed with them.
That's
and in
awesome.
fact, I talked to Michelle and I talked about Michelle Courier, who another one, phenomenal, so I'm saying everybody's my friend. I just love these people, right? So,
we have the most awesome community. I'm just saying.
We do. We have a great community.
Yeah.
But Michelle Courier, we heard I talked about trying to do something with the CMLDP, all 3 groups at GCMS, because what they brought to the table was amazing.
Yeah,
really
good stuff. That's awesome. So what about Chicago as a host city? Did you get a chance to?
Oh yeah, I got out a little bit. Chicago's just a beautiful city. It is a windy city. My hair was like, no, it's a beautiful city. Some of the best steakhouses, great place, great venue.
NCMA picks well. I think they pick well.
That Hyatt Regency was really nice, because they had that ground, they had basically 2 levels, and they had enough conference rooms. It was very comfortable a venue. The rooms were really nice, pretty nice. There were a couple of older rooms, but generally it was pretty nice. I did like the hotel. I thought it was a great venue. I think it's a really good one. I think next year they're doing, or next year it's in Tennessee, I think Nashville. I think it's in Nashville.
Okay, nice.
I think, don't quote me on that. GCMS is in Bethesda, by the way.
Yes. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm going to be in.
GCMS is also another one of my I do like GCMS. It's just a smaller venue.
Absolutely.
But World Congress and ELC are the 2 that I always, when people ask me, what are 2 events, name the events that I should go to, I always go, especially if you're in the IT side, get over to ELC. ACT-IAC does a great job. And if you're in the acquisition profession, go to NCMA. And even if you're on the periphery of the profession, like, some of the tech folks, I've told a couple of CIOs, you should go.
Yeah, program managers, you want
to
understand the acquisition, the big A of it.
Exactly. And think of all the people you meet. And I think it's a great networking event. Oh my God, you meet some fabulous people.
Absolutely. So one of the things I observed from the virtual perspective, and I think you touched on it a little bit, is that there were quite a bit of varied topics that were in the atmosphere of contracts and acquisition, but there were lots of things you could have touched a few things that were, this is different. This is a different angle, a different strategy. So I was really impressed with the call, I guess it's the process of the call for presentations, vetting them, approving them, there's such diversity in experiences and topics, but all fell clearly and comfortably under the NCMA umbrella.
Correct. Yeah, I think NCMA has done a good job of that. I think that they have gotten really good at making sure that we're not just talking about contracting, that we're talking about all those things that impact contracting. And it's a credit, it's credit to the organization. The organization's been around a long time. I've been a member of the organization for quite some time. And in the interest of full disclosure, I do some work for them right now. But I'm not promoting. I always always talk about NCMA as one of the key organizations to be a member of if you're in this profession. And I do think that they've done some really good things like the contract management standard, creating that common language, if you will,
Sure.
for the acquisition profession and the contract management body of knowledge. They're an ANSI approved certification program now. Now their certifications are ANSI approved. And I've long held, and in fact, when I testified on May 12th, I brought this up, that I think we got to have a certification that's common across industry and government for the
yeah, we've talked about this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Because I really think the government spends a lot of money, training the acquisition professional. I mean, I benefited from that, training the acquisition professional, getting them certified, et cetera. But then we lose them to industry.
Yeah.
And we're not always getting them back from industry, right?
Yeah.
And I want to see the profession become a little bit more portable between industry and government, because that's the only way we're going to improve the acquisition workforce. You're not going to get the numbers of people coming into the government, because a lot of people don't even know about government contract. They don't even teach it. They don't even teach it. In DC, look at all the schools we have in the area. They don't really teach federal contracting.
Right.
They teach elements of it, right? You can go to, I think it's GW, the law school, which, by the way, no offense to my friends in the law school, but I got something popped up on my screen. Did you get something pop up on my screen? Sorry about that. My friends in law school, nothing against the law profession, but this is a business profession.
Right.
I got a contract.
Yeah, it's a business. Yeah, business. I agree.
And I think it should stand alone as its own discipline. I really do. That I think the contracting profession continues to grow. We push a lot of money through that in the federal government, state and local as well. And more, it's growing in importance. And I think it should be a standalone profession with its own degree programs, with its own curriculum. And certainly, nothing against the law. We need our lawyers. We need economists. We need lawyers.
Absolutely. They're on the team.
We're a team. That's right. We need our accountants, et cetera. I can't tell you how much I needed that team, always, and relied on that team to go there. But what we know and what we do is a very unique profession. And I think it needs to be pushed a little bit more in that direction.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think you've heard me say, I think the industry spends a lot of time, money, and energy understanding what's behind the curtain in government, or at least trying to understand what are they doing and what they're doing. I'm not sure if the same level of energy, time, money, energy, resources is going in the other direction, and it should, in my opinion. And I know
that was my agenda. That was my agenda. DHS. It was we better understand.
We got to understand
the industry side of this business because.
No, I'm just saying. I remember coming out of government that I was like, 26 years in the craft, I kind of know this thing. And as soon as I started living on the other side, I'm like, oh my gracious, this is all this stuff that now I have to, that I would have been a better contracts professional if I would have had exposure to the way water flows on the industry side more. I think I had some, but if I'd have had more, I could have shown up, in my opinion, I think I could have shown up as a better contracts professional, knowing how the connections had to be made on how water flows on the industry side. So I think there's value in that. And I hope NCMA takes the reins and makes the connection.
I think that they are. I really do. And also the perspectives of industry. The industry varies based not only on its size, but even the industry that they're in, whether they're construction or IT.
Oh, absolutely. The nuances.
The nuances, right? There are nuances. And then the sizes of the companies make a huge difference in how they look at things. And it's funny when you raise the fact when you come out. I don't think I've ever spoken to a federal employee who came out of government and came in the industry and really worked in the business who hasn't said, wow, my eyes are open. Now I get why. Right? Yeah. Or I understand why they were banging on the doors or why they asked the questions that they did. And I'm gonna slam my government a little bit, or what we don't say, right? We're not always good at conveying the message, at describing the challenge, or being clear on the requirement, or being honest about this is why you weren't selected. I see it now. I get it, right? And it's amazing, right?
It is. It
opens your eyes. You go, whoa, no, I'm on this side.
I've got a big soapbox on that one. That I was like, the government, at times, government looks at communication as a risk And it's like, that's gotta be turned around. It's like the more you talk, actually, the more you reduce the risk by the more you communicate. So
Exactly.
yeah, I got a big soapbox, Wade. We're gonna do an
Oh
episode. I
yeah,
got
oh
a big
yeah.
soapbox
You
on
know
that
that
one.
I'm big on that. I'm on like, let's start
Yeah,
with the planning side and let's just step it all the
absolutely,
way through.
absolutely.
But all kidding aside, I think NCMA has done a really good job. I like the way they bring the community together. World Congress was a real hit, I think, this year. And I'm looking forward to the future World Congresses and for them to continue to expand and get it clear. And interesting thing I learned about NCMA as being a part of it now and working with them, they don't do any lobbying. I don't know if you knew that about them. They don't.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, even though they're a C6, they don't do any lobbying at all whatsoever.
Interesting.
It's just like not in their it's not in their DNA to do it. So they don't do any lobbying at all whatsoever. And yet their focus and their attention is all about the workforce. It is about the common language standards. And it's all about identifying ways that we can continue to improve upon the profession, expand upon the profession, and help the workforce be a better workforce in this profession, both industry and government. And when I say government, by the way, federal, state, and local, I don't know how much state and local is involved with them. I've not looked at the numbers recently. I know in the state, but there are organizations out there like NASPO and others that would benefit from partnering.
Absolutely, coming into the collective.
We'll kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
Government is government. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Bureaucracy, right? And large industry is a bureaucracy. I like to tease.
Yeah, but good government is good business. It really is, in my opinion, that has always been a mantra of mine, is good government is good business. So if you can stick to good business, doesn't matter what level you practice good business. Right. If you've got good business, I think that is a strong contribution to good government.
Well, and I think the more that we can promote consistency across government, as well as consistency in how we interact with one another, the better the deals are going to be. I don't care what anybody says. You could teach somebody all the best cost and pricing tricks, all the great negotiation techniques. You could teach everything you want out of a textbook. Until we learn how to communicate and how to collaborate with one another, how to really work together, you're not going to be successful. I attribute my success, by the way, not because I'm a brainiac. I'm probably like the dumbest person in the room. I attribute it a lot. But I attribute it a lot to my willingness to sit down and talk to people and understand where they were coming from and why certain things were important to them. Why do certain things matter to you? And trying to understand that and then bring that back into the conversation and make sure I was addressing your thinking and your needs. No person has all the answers. And it's when we come together and work together and recognizing, the power of many is, I think I attribute that to my success. That's what I attribute to my success. My willingness to listen to industry, to sometimes accept the criticism, well, not sometimes, all the time, to accept the criticisms of industry as being valid, but worth discovering, and also helping industry understand, as you make that criticism, look at what you do that causes us to
please understand.
Because the greatest philosophy, this applies to your personal life as well as your professional life. You don't change other people. You have to change the way you behave if you want them to change their reaction to you, right? So, and I mean, all the scholars, well, smart scholars will tell you that you can't change the other person. You got to look in a mirror and say, what do I do to make it different, right? And I think in government and industry, we need to do a little bit more of that. And we need to bring all the players to the table. You know that at DHS, I pushed very hard for that entire CXO suite. We were a team. I needed my CIO, my CFO, my chief readiness officer, my security officer. I needed my chief information security officer. I needed them all at some point when I was working. Absolutely. And so the more I could bring them to the table, then that was the benefit of the entire procurement. The most successful procurements were where the teams came together.
Absolutely. And I think it's because people see their fingerprints and DNA on them. It's like, I'm a part of that now. Then they can start owning and advocating for it.
Exactly. You create advocates and you create owners. And when you own it, then you're going to live it and you're going to be passionate. Well, hopefully you're going to be passionate about it, unless you're just passionless.
All right. All right, Soraya, we're at that time. It was a great conversation, the recap of World Congress 2022. I applaud them for doing NCMA for doing an amazing job. And if there's any nugget that comes out of, let's do our nuggets like nuggets that came out of the World Congress. You want to share a nugget that you had coming out of World Congress?
So I think the biggest nugget is that reminder that we are a community, that we are the acquisition professionals for federal, state, local, industry across the board, and that when we come together, the power of many can accomplish so much. So I think the biggest nugget is get to those events. They're great networking events, but they're great knowledge events about the real world, not about textbook, what's happening in the real world. That's my nugget.
Awesome, awesome. My nugget is going to go back and touch a little bit about what I talked about, the CMLDP investment in the youth. I think these types of activities invest in the youth. We see them rise and grow and get pushed to the front and say, go be, go fill the space. And I think the more opportunities we have to do that, NCMA is one of those. So for the youth in our community, here's a venue. If you don't have a venue where you are, here's an opportunity, here's a venue to come in and show what you got. Because I believe that the future is going to be in good hands, but it's only going to be in good hands when the mature of us step aside, coach, but let the young folks get in front.
They have great ideas, and when we talk about leadership development, well, that's it.
Yeah.
I've said it long and hard. This profession depends on how well we lead it.
Yes.
We've got to have great leaders. So yeah, very excited about it. So
right.
Will, it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Same here. I missed you.
And you know that I got a list of topics.
I bet you do. I bet you do.
I have a list of topics now, but I did want to say a shout out and thank you to our audience out there, because we have been getting some suggestions. I've received a couple.
Yeah,
I know you have too.
Me too.
And,
yes.
and we love our fans out there that listen to us. I like to call them fans, because it makes me feel like a celebrity. Yay!
You are specials. So you are special.
You are too. No, but I can't tell how many people came up to me in World Congress and said, "Oh, I love what you and Will are doing," and all that good stuff. So folks, keep listening. Send us your suggestions. We do have the list of topics, and you will hear your topic. If you're listening to us, you'll hear your topic soon.
Right. Absolutely. As well as guests. We welcome people to come sit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We got a few of those lined up too.
Absolutely. Okay. All the best. Be well.
You take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.